their defense just was stifling today. Certainly our offense, was to be can be blamed for sure, but give them credit. I thought their defense and they're playing at a much slower pace this year, and I just don't think we handled that very well. And our offensive frustration was significant in the first half, and it dug us too deep of a hole really to climb out of. But give them credit for their defense today. Obviously, we've got a lot to learn from in this game before we play them a second time and just moving forward in general.
Chris, do you think your team is starting to feel the same maybe stress or noise that's really unavoidable out there during a tough stretch like this?
Yeah, how could they not, right? Clay, how could they not? It's part of it. It's part of being in the public eye. It's part of playing at a major, university. I think they do probably a good job, to some degree blocking it out. But that's a lot to ask. So the answer is throw yourself into your work and focus on the work.
What was so difficult and stifling about the Michigan State defense you mentioned? I mean, with 3-pointers, you guys attempted 29. It seemed like it was hard to get into the paint today.
I couldn't get to the paint. Yeah, we knew how. Obviously as coaches, I should have gotten them more ready for their defense. So I'll take full responsibility for that. I should have clearly had a better plan for our offensive attack. The game here last year was considerably different. It was a much faster paced game, but clearly, this plan we needed to get better with it. But we just had no opportunities to get to the paint. And then I think the missing some of the open shots there early led to us, playing frustrated and tight offensively. And you can't play a good offense like that.
Chris, you had mentioned a couple of days ago that you'd want your guys to shoot more threes. Obviously, they didn't go well today. You didn't shoot particularly well last game either.
Yeah.
I guess at this point in the year, are you still searching for what this team's offensive identity should be when, it was such a slog 2-point efficiency-wise, and then the last game it was about as good as you could be, possibly 2 points, and now you're not making threes?
Yeah, our 2-point field goal percentage, Bill, as you know, has not been good, and that's kind of been a foundational piece for our highly efficient offenses the last couple of years. And we've really struggled with our 2-point finishes. It's last in the Big Ten, or it was last in the Big Ten. And that's so uncharacteristic. I think some of that is just a byproduct of we're not playing off 2 feet enough. We're playing in crowds. Whatever you have to reason for that, inexperience, whatever. We clearly got to coach that better. I think I do want to shoot more threes. Today was probably too many. And we'll make some that we just missed today. I really believe we'll make some that we missed today. I think some of the misses were a byproduct of just the frustration of it being a low-scoring game and us just not adjusting to that. But do I need to look at maybe, playing our better shooters more, looking at different, lineup in terms of, I don't know. We need to look at it, but clearly, the space, it's hard to come by right now against some teams.
A guy like Justice, who shot the ball pretty well for you guys his first year here, he's like 23% right now. He's still taking like 3 per game. He was 1 for 6 today. Do you at some point have to tell him to stop shooting, even if he's open, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, Bill, we've looked at him in practice, and he's pretty consistently a solid shooter. I wouldn't call him a great shooter, but a solid shooter. And I think for this team, if our shooting was better at other positions, and I think we had, he didn't really need to take many threes on that team, if you remember who we had on that team. You had Justin, you had Dwayne, you had EJ who was shooting it well, a 5-man who could shoot threes. So he could take wide open ones, and he had a lot of wide open ones. But he's a better shooter than what he shot right now. I didn't have issue with some of his shots. I think he needs to keep taking rhythm ones. For this team, Bill, for this team he does.
Coach, you've gone with a lot of different starting lineups, recently in this stretch here, but Roddy getting the start today, playing 26 minutes, what did you think, made his game something you wanted to employ in this matter?
Well, I'd like to play Roddy and Sean together quite a bit. I think for us moving forward, I want to give that a look, a little bit more ball handling, adding another. Roddy can make open shots. So I should have played him more last game. I felt like I should have played him more last game. And I just liked the blend of defense with kind of the offensive group that we had, that mix of the starting lineup. Obviously, it was young, but we'll see if that continues.
Chris, earlier in the season, we talked a little bit about transition defense with teams speeding you up, and then today you're saying Michigan State intentionally slowing it down. You said made it difficult. Do you mind expanding on that a little bit?
Well, their tempo, when you look at it, is just it's much different than what it's been in the past. We're playing the fastest we've played in our 6 years, but we're the least efficient we've been, or the second least efficient we've been in our 6 years. And some of that, there's a multitude of reasons for that. I think they will try to strike in the first 6 seconds, but I thought today they played very deliberate, maybe more so than I remember Tom's teams playing. They're just a little bit of a different makeup, but obviously Tom's a Hall of Famer and he's having success with this group for a reason. So I think it frustrated us when we weren't making shots and then we were playing 24 seconds of defense. This group has gotten frustrated with that a couple times. There was another game this year where we got frustrated in the Minnesota game. I think we got frustrated with that.
And then following up with what Griffin asked about Roddy, getting his second start today, do you see this as a thing where he's probably going to be starting moving forward? And then also for this last stretch of games here down the stretch, what parts of his game do you want him to work on and improve on the rest of the season?
I think his ball handling, decision making. Roddy right now needs to impact us with his defense. And I think he had some good moments today, but he's got to be able to impact the game with his defense and his energy and his rebounding. And then out of that will come some good offensive moments like he had tonight. I thought he had a couple plays where he made the right pass and made an open three at the end of the first half. But I thought Roddy did some good things. We've got to get Bryce. This is now a few games here when you include kind of the Wisconsin game where we just have to continue to get him back into a better rhythm, really starting with the Wisconsin game, and that's our job as coaches to work to make that happen.
Chris, there's been some games recently where you guys get down, but then you come back, you get to kind of like that 8-point to 4-point window and just can't get over the hump, turnovers, poor shots. Scared may not be the right word, but are the guys, once they get in that window, maybe getting tentative or, we're right there, and then it just kind of falls apart? Does that question make even sense?
No, it does. It definitely makes sense. I think maybe there's some degree of tentativeness, but to your point, some of it is we just have not always had quality possessions. When we've been up 4-6, we'll take a contested shot when in some cases, probably I need to slow them down more than what we do right now. I think our understanding right now of winning possessions when it's a 2 or 3 possession game is just not where it needs to be, and that's my responsibility to get them there. We fight some things too much.
That's something you work on in practice? Is it more just game situational?
Both. Yeah, I think we've certainly worked on it in practice. We've broken it down in film. We broke it down in film again this morning of us executing offensively and defensively late by just playing together offensively and defensively and moving the ball. But we've got some habits there we probably need to break.
Chris, you've seen Joey Hauser for several years in the league now, and I'm wondering, how is he a different player when you watch previous games and this game just sort of, and how does that change the scout, if anything, for him? And where is he a problem that he wasn't maybe in years past?
He's a more confident shooter, more confident offensive player. I think that's probably the biggest thing I've seen with him. I recruited him out of high school, it seemed like a decade ago. He was a really, really good player coming out of high school. And obviously they got him on the transfer. A really good player, really talented. So it doesn't surprise me that he's turned into a really good Big Ten player. I think Tom's done a great job with him in just terms of feeding him with some confidence, because he did not play this confident, in my opinion, last year.
Finish up with Bruce and then Adam.
So every team starts a year, particularly here, with NCAA aspirations, Big Ten championship aspirations. At this point, that doesn't look realistic. What in your mind is an attainable achievement for this team that you want to see with what's left of the season that would enable you to feel like you gain something and have momentum in a good direction at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think it's hard, because it's a good question. I'm just gonna, it's gonna be kind of a general response. Growth, I think, is the biggest thing. I think growth in the areas of sharing and moving the ball, Bruce. Growth in the air. I thought we had some really, really good defensive possessions today. Really good. I thought we played, honestly, good enough defense for 30 minutes to give ourselves a chance to win. Our offense was just rough. So I think growth in the areas of that we've talked about, moving the ball, sharing the ball, finding the open man, rebounding the ball a little bit better than what we have consistently, and then having a consistent defensive 40 minutes with multiple sustaining efforts. Those are the things that we've addressed.
Krista, when he was asking about when you cut it to 5 and then just trying to get a stop, I think you did get a stop, and then you came down the other end and Bryce misses a shot, and on Zed's putback, it looked like there might have been some contact around the rim. Did you see anything? It was hard to tell from my viewpoint.
I've got to go back and look at it. I think I did not think the game was officiated poorly. I thought it was officiated really well. I've got to look at that specific one. There weren't a whole lot of fouls called in this game. In some ways, that's we just weren't able to impose ourselves offensively. It was a critical stretch there. I can't remember how much time was left. I think it was in the middle of the second half. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Cut it to 5, and I think during that stretch, we just did not have enough quality possessions. We gave up in transition 3, and we had a couple poor shots.
And with Zed, I think this is the second straight game where he's been grabbing that shoulder, and it's not a contact thing. He's reaching or something like that. What are the evaluations like with him as far as, is he healthy enough to keep playing, and do you have to start? Do you have to consider shutting down, smaller role, things like that?
Yeah, I think the only way we would shut it down is if he had another significant injury or multiple significant injuries with it. I think right now it's at the point where it's strong enough, as determined by our medical team, for him to continue playing. I think sometimes when he extends it or when he gets hit, it's painful for him. I give him a lot of credit for fighting through it. Clearly, he's not at his best, but I think he's fighting through that particular injury.